So here's a little thing I want to talk about, and that's about the ending of Attack on Titan, or actually, let's go a little back and talk about, was even a peace possible between Eldia and the Eldians and the world, not just Marley? Before starting the video, I would actually appreciate it a lot if you left some comments, or I don't know, the main shit that people, the YouTubers ask you to do, if you do like, and if you do like the content. So here's the thing, I've seen the argument that, hey, Eren and friends, Eren and the Jaegerists, they ruined the peace chance and the chances for peace in Attack on Titan with the rumbling and everything. There are two main points to talk about here. First of all, I'm not gonna go into spoiler territory at first, I'm gonna go into that later on, so if you're an anime only, you can continue watching the video. First of all, and first and foremost, to achieve peace, to have a long-lasting peace, you have to take into account a few things. First of all, there is no permanent peace in this world. It has never been in the world. You cannot have permanent peace. It just doesn't happen, because as time goes on, many things happen and there are conflicts of interest, and there is going to be bound to be. I do point you to a dialogue from Erwin that said, humanity will never stop fighting itself until it shrinks to a size of one or fewer. So here what Isayama is doing through Erwin, a person with a very deep insight into politics and power structure, is that, hey, conflict will go on as long as there are people in the world, and there is even more than one, because conflicts of interest happens between every single person, and you can't deny that, you can't stop that. Having that into account, to achieve peace, and I do remember that I have worked several years, more than 7 years, as a political journal, and it goes on, it's still happening. So from a political and historical standpoint, a permanent peace does not happen and cannot happen. It's just beautiful words and, let's say, sugarcoating the reality. Here what we have that many people seem to mistake is that, hey, Eldia and the world could have achieved everlasting peace. That could not have happened even if they were actually, the Eldians were people. I'm gonna talk about that, do not get angry so fast, I'm gonna talk about that too. So to achieve peace, there should be no conflict of interest, or there should be enough bridges to stop the conflicts of interest to escalate further. Here what we have is a history of many years, of centuries of war between the two people. Being the Eldians trampling the world, no, the Eldians destroying the world and taking people as slaves and stuff. Being it true or not, it does have to see with the historical sources that both parties use, and that's also another point. And the other part of Eldians being persecuted in the whole world. So what you have is a very conflicted history. But let us do remember that we have Japan getting nuked in World War II, and they are actually kind of okay with USA right now, United States. So it's not really about the past grievances, but mostly about what we perceive as the differences between the two. If you have ideological differences, it can kind of, with the passage of time or with dialogue, be fixed or come to an agreement or agree to disagree and just let everyone be at their peace. That can happen. But what you have in Attack on Titan that Isayama has put emphasis, and somehow in the ending decided to completely ruin that at the very last part, last chapter, is that, hey, you have a race of people. You can't actually call Eldians people. You have a bunch of creatures that can turn into Titans at any time, at any moment, even if they do not want to turn into Titans. I'm talking about pure Titans, I'm not talking about the 9 Titan shifters. So here's the thing, imagine you are in a building and you have an Eldian neighbor, and you have no idea if at any point in time your neighbor is going to turn into a Titan and eat your whole family. There could be like the thing with Zeke, there could be syringes, someone could do it, or I don't know, anything. They could turn into Titans. So there is a biological distinction between the Eldians and normal humans. What you have here is not just a political disagreement, it's not about beliefs, it's about the DNA, it's about the biological everything of the Eldians. Having a bunch of people that can turn into Titans at your proximity doesn't really help much in achieving peace, because you have some semi-human, semi-monsters, and these people can turn into Titans at any moment. So, is it possible to achieve peace with these people? It's very unlikely that can happen, because, you know, they can turn into Titans, they like it or not. It can happen with the same with the vines. Imagine someone would get the vines to some people and do some Titan shifter like Z. They can do that, and you don't know whether that's going to happen or not. You don't even completely understand what they are. And you can't, and it's not a power you can explore just by dissecting one alien or something. It goes beyond the human cognition and everything. So you have a semi-human creature that you can't fully understand, that can be pretty dangerous to you, living in close proximity to you if they were all living together as equals. You would be still scared the shit out of them. That can't be fixed. Eldians can't have peace with the world if they are still Eldians, if they are still subjects of Ymir, if they can still be controlled by some person that gets the founding title and everything. And it can't happen. Just imagine it in real life. And you have to make the distinction, because Isayama did that this is not a difference between ideologies, because the Paradisians actually had pretty much no ideology. It's not a battle between the communists and let's say the liberals, or the democratic world and the fascist world, or anything. It's a fight for survival between the people of the world and something seen as, some creature seen as semi-human, semi-monster. You could be saying, hey, that it's not easy to turn into titans. It can still happen. You can have, and you will have the fear of the unknown. This is the most basic fear of the humankind since the very beginning. So you can't actually say that, hey, a lasting peace was possible between Eldia and the world. The whole thing that Armin and Co were doing was pretty much stupid. It was actually pretty smart to try that and run out of options and actually do something later on. But if you are under the impression that at any point, with rumbling or without a rumbling, there would have been a lasting peace, first of all, lasting peace doesn't exist. Second of all, they are not humans. And third, even if they lose their powers, I don't really think that people are just going to forget what they were before. So, leaving all those aside again, from a geopolitical standpoint, and let's say from a very realistic standpoint, you can't fix conflict, you can't erase conflict. It just doesn't happen. The last few pages pretty much show us that, and I do know there are a bunch of plot holes in that goes to another video that I will record right after this one and upload it probably 2 days later on. You can't have something like that. You can't have a lasting peace, and there are many reasons on top of what we already have. Two countries right now cannot have lasting peace. Even if they did, even if Eren did a limited rumbling on the military structure of the world, there could still be no lasting peace. You know, with the passage of time and technology and stuff, the world changes, and sometimes you are the superpower right now, you would be like a pretty shitty country later on. You won't be having your status forever, and that's just something that the passage of time shows us. So do not fall into the trap that Armin and Co could have achieved a long-lasting peace. And about Eren actually kind of achieved what he wanted, if you take that into account, because I will talk about that in another video, but Eren's objective wasn't saving Eldia and Paradise. It was mostly, if you look at it closely, it was saving his friends and let them have a good life. And I'm pretty much sure that when the bombing raid on Paradise began and they destroyed Paradise, everyone was pretty much dead, considering by the size of the tree and stuff. So yeah, do not fall into that mistake. And let's just go into the spoilers territory, because I have something to add considering the ending of the manga. So here's the thing. In the manga, somehow we have the fact that now the power of the Titans is no more. I would like to make the argument that that was a pretty bad idea on the part of Isayama to just erase the power of the Titans at that point. Because first of all, if it was possible to erase the power of the Titans, why not make it actually sooner? What was the point in destroying 80% of the world and then erasing the power of the Titans? They could have done the limited rumbling, destroy the military infrastructure of the whole world, and then destroy the power of the Titans and say, hey, we are humans again. I did talk about that, if whether or not they are gonna believe that. That was one option. That for some reason, at the very ending, we have the thing about Power of the Titans disappearing. And that's one of the reasons I think that AoE actually saves the series from not being a masterpiece, considering what happened in the last pages and the plot armors and the plot holes. But do take into account that it was pretty bad idea to destroy that at the very end, because it was one of the main points that Isayama had made, that hey, we have a biological difference. And now somehow it's destroyed, and it's not destroyed at the very first, that before the full rumbling, no, but 80% rumbling is pretty much a lot of rumbling. And do not get me started on how dumb the rumbling was for the future of Paradise, if Eren wanted to save Paradise, because it pretty much destroys the ecosystem of the world, and that's not a very smart idea, and it not being a full rumbling, being the 80% rumble. So here's the thing, Isayama, by making that last choice to erase the power of the Titans from the Eldians, pretty much undermined his own message and made it into something that really, in my opinion, was not much needed at that point and was not a very smart idea to include in the plot. And I would like to make the case that if you still believe at some point that a long-lasting peace was possible, I do ask you to just read some history or some at least political theories to understand that this cannot happen for many reasons. Very, very basic things in the power structure and in the interhuman relations. I would recommend you to read Michel Foucault, very bright person. I wouldn't call him a philosopher, but this baguette fan, this French person, pardon my bad joke humor and dad joke humor, he has some very interesting things to say about the interhuman relations, and it would serve as a kind of guide to you to understand better what was happening in Attack on Titan. You do see some parts and some signs of Isayama making references to this bright person's work, and he's more of a critic of ideologies than being a philosopher himself. But I do advise you to read anything you can find from him, and mostly the things about interhuman and interpersonal relationship and relations, and mostly his critique on Marxism. It kind of helps you understand better the interhuman relations and the power structures in them. So this is it. I hope you enjoyed the video, and do leave your comments. I'm very sorry if I can't actually comment on all of them. I do read most of them, but managing 2 channels at the same time and streaming at the same time and university life and everything is not that easy. So have a great day and thank you for watching the video. And as we say in Farsi, Shabatum Bakhair.